Welcome to Purposely Peaceful. I'm your host, Jessica Rivera, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a quantum hypnosis practitioner. This podcast is where real life meets inner peace. You'll get honest conversations, practical tools, and soulful guidance to help you live with more clarity, calm, and purpose. Let's dive in. Welcome back. So today I want to talk about one of my least favorite feelings, which is overwhelm. Why? Because it's a reminder that all the things that I have to do are happening all at once. It's that feeling that comes up that makes me question all of my life choices. Is that being dramatic? Maybe. But when you're in the thick of it, messy house, whiny toddler, food cooking on the stove, noise at full volume, and the dog and the cat are chasing each other, and not in a good way, it sure does feel like my world is caving in on itself. There is only one of me and 100 things going on all at once. And still, I can't just give up and throw in the towel. This episode is about overwhelm. We each feel it in our own way. You don't have to have kids to feel it. You can simply have responsibilities and things to do, and that's more than enough to keep someone overwhelmed. This doesn't support our goal of inner peace. They don't work well together. The good news is that overwhelm is a feeling that passes through. There's an increase in pressure, it peaks, and eventually it dissipates and goes away. But let's start off with why we even get there in the first place. For me, it's easy to get overwhelmed because we have a bunch of kids, pets, and we're over here feeding, it feels like 10 people every night. We love our big family, don't get me wrong. We love hosting our children and our parents and feeding them. However, life seems to be spinning faster than I can keep up with right now. My husband and I love to cook and bake, but the joy of it easily disappears when you add the chaos of daily life. So I find us missing out on the things we want to do most because of overwhelm. So as you can hear, my life is overwhelming and chaotic at times, or a lot of the time. I also have a business, household responsibilities, and that to-do list that I always talk about. Let me share why I feel overwhelmed, and maybe you can relate. We feel overwhelmed because everything feels important, as if it all has to get done or else. And the reality of that is that it's not necessarily true. And so there's a part in here where we have to give ourselves a perspective check. We have to take responsibility for the fact that, yeah, I have a lot to do. I somehow signed up for life, and this is how it looks like. The reality is, though, we don't have to do it all. One of the things that we need to do when we're feeling overwhelmed is have a little bit of a perspective check. Like, is it true that I have to do all of these things today? More than likely, no. Sometimes, yes. But you have to take responsibility for what am I forcing myself to do today when life is just really chaotic. And maybe it's better when the kids go to sleep, or maybe it's better if I do it first thing in the morning. So give yourself that perspective check of what actually needs to happen now and what can be done later. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So this moves me to the other part of what we all do to ourselves. And I see this a lot and I do it myself, is the who made that rule question. Sometimes we're like, I have to do this. I have to clean the bathroom. I got to take out the trash. I have to do all of this and I have to do it before dinner. Who made that rule that it had to be before dinner? That's where all the chaos is for me. Sometimes I have to tell myself that was a rule that you made up that it had to get done right now. It can happen after dinner time, and that way my husband's home, he can take out the trash, and I could actually have some help. I don't have to put all of that on my back and have to figure out how to do it. So every time you think I have to do this or I have to do that or this needs to get done, who said so? Ask yourself that question, who made that rule? And then what every anxious person likes to do is to spend time thinking about all the ways that something could go wrong or the worst case scenario. When we do this, turn it into a little gift that we are by nature a little dramatic and we exaggerate. And so if we're exaggerating and we're spending time like, but if I don't do this, then, I'm not going to do that. And then all of this is going to happen. If you are spending time worrying about what's going to happen if I don't do this or that, slow your thoughts for a moment and really think about, is that likely to happen? Is that really going to happen if I take out the trash after dinner? Am I going to have some kind of crisis because of it? No, nothing's going to happen if I wait to take out the trash. And I know that that maybe is a really simple example. Sometimes we have bigger things that we need to deal with, and we can't help but go to the worst case scenario. Remember, anxiety is just made up stuff. It's unhinged thoughts that have no boundaries. And so let's put those boundaries in. Yes, bad things can happen or something can get worse. That's the reality. However, if you're overwhelmed, that means on some level, you're probably taking care of it right now, or you're just going to plan when you're going to take care of it. Like you're going to maybe set a reminder on Alexa and say, hey, set me a reminder at 6 o'clock to take out the trash. And so if you really hear what I'm saying is a lot of this is your own personal stuff, right? It's the belief that it has to be done a certain way. Then you have to really take a second and just be like, who made that rule? And is it a real rule? No, it's not a law. It's not signed into the legal system. So it's flexible. And if you spend time on how it's all going to go wrong, that's a lot of mental, emotional energy that you've now put out to the universe. But at the same time, you've distracted yourself from actually getting something done. And so learning to nip it when you can and interrupt it and say, you know what, let me take care of it, or I'm going to plan it for later. So it's just not going to get worse, period. This way of looking at it has really given me a reality check in my life that overwhelm only happens when you've made everything a priority. And the truth is that not everything is a priority. Let me explain how I see it. We live in a busy and overstimulating society, and if we aren't careful, we have a habit to mimic these behaviors in all areas of our lives. We just keep operating this way sometimes out of habit, out of circumstance, out of just life, because that's the only way to keep up the pace and get it all done. I don't know about you, but I don't want to lose my mind over the small stuff. I don't want overwhelm to be the reason I snap at somebody or beat myself up for how much I have to do. We all have demands and responsibilities with life, at work, our children, our health, and all of these things. It's so easy to feel that it's all very important. It is, but not everything has the same equal value and weight. This is what I call our individual value system. I don't know if this is real, but this is just what I call it to explain this thought process. Our individual value system should not equally distribute the same level of importance across all of our responsibilities. For example, feeding our pets is more important than doing the dishes. The dishes can wait, the pets cannot. Okay, that one's really simple. Here's another one. Returning an email shouldn't be as urgent if you already left the office. I work from home and I still have office hours. This doesn't mean that I don't respond after hours. If I can, I will. But if I can't, it goes lower on my value scale, and I will get to it when my next workday starts, unless it's an emergency, obviously. Of course, that's going to change the way that you decide to handle it. Then it becomes a priority. The struggle that I hear the most is that overwhelm is happening because of all the pressures that we have that are happening all at once. So let's assume there is an emergency that's life-threatening. You'd immediately put it at the top of your priority list. Everything else will fall behind it. If you're at work, you use the work priority and value system there. When you're at home, you adjust for your personal and family needs. This is why I believe we all need a personal value scale that determines how important something should be and when. I don't know if there is already a system like this that exists, but I just made this up to try to explain this process that I have in my head and that I teach people that I work with. I can continue to give you some examples, but you have to look at your life and see where you are making something as important as breathing and eating when maybe it's something that isn't as essential and you can do at a different time. Maybe it doesn't have to be piled in with all the other things that you're doing. And I don't mean that you need to go write up a whole Excel spreadsheet unless you want to, but what I do mean is take some time to reflect where you've misaligned your priorities. We would all benefit from having these check-ins every so often because we do, right? By nature, we kind of drift off or get off course. A check-in with yourself could be really helpful. So this moves me to the next point that a lot of times when people are overwhelmed, they multitask to get more done. And the multitasking trap is a great way to stunt progress. Sometimes we just can't do it all at once. It's just not realistic sometimes. And then because we are multitasking, doing a whole lot of different things at once, we might never finish what we're trying to do. And so there's certain situations where multitasking doesn't help. So part of taking inventory is even catching yourself and knowing that you're doing that because maybe you need more focused attention. What would be really helpful is then to strengthen your focusing abilities. And if you have ADHD, this might require more mental, emotional energy, but you can do it. If you can focus on one task, could you finish faster? Could it make you more productive? Could it decrease your overall stress? This is just something for you to think about. Can you strengthen your focus abilities? Can I set a timer for a minute and see if I can stay focused on this task? Maybe I need 5 minutes to get it done, and so I'm going to set a 5 minute timer, and that's all I'm going to focus on. More people are more productive that way when they are intentional versus just trying to do a whole lot of little things all at once. And I speak from experience too. I'm not just helping people through it. I am also walking, living, breathing example of someone that has to learn how to do this in order to be productive and do all the things that I do. Inner peace and overwhelm are like oil and water. But the reality of life is that it will keep going. There's no stopping it. So, how do you want to spend it? Overwhelmed, far away from inner peace, or with more focused intention with what's important right now? Here is my real life dilemma. This is something that I'm kind of going through. I had roughly put together episode 17. Yes, this one that you're listening to. And it was on a different subject altogether, but it didn't pass the vibe check. It just wasn't me. It wasn't how I envisioned the message that I wanted to share. So Wednesday night, instead of scheduling it to go live anyway, I scrapped it. I decided that I needed to figure out what went wrong, what was going on with me. I realized that I had let my overwhelm get the best of me this past week. Not only that, I have been squeezing in time at random during the week to work on my podcast. It had been working up until recently. And after some time reflecting, trying to figure out what's the issue, I remembered the obvious. My life is chaotic, loud, busy, full of lots of people and many things to do. I love my life, but it doesn't make for the best workspace at this point in time. As much as I'd love to create at home, it's not been prioritized properly, which leads to late nights, full of regret, gonna cancel an episode kind of night. And although this show is a labor of love, it's also something I deeply enjoy and a place of self expression. Every episode is a different layer of growth, reflection, and wisdom, a collection of what I've learned through me and through others. And I want to continue to do this, but not if I'm stressed because I haven't carved out time to make it happen. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to leave the house, husband and kids, and I'm going to go somewhere else to work and spend time with myself in a way that I rarely ever do. Yep, I'm going to have to put in the work outside of the home. This is also giving me the nudge to go back to work in an office. That means that I need to put on my big girl pants and go lease an office soon. This was my lesson from the universe, that we can have a lot to do, but we have to decide its value in our lives. We have to take responsibility for how much or how little it impacts us. The dirty dishes or the pile of laundry will always be there, so there's no point in getting upset about it. There is simply a point that I need to schedule it in. I've decided that I'm going to do my best to not let chores drain me emotionally. This podcast will continue to be a part of my life, and it is now scheduled in my calendar. My husband knows, my kids know, everybody knows. There's going to be no more emotional energy wasted on when I'm going to squeeze it in, because that was the problem. I wasn't having enough time to really put it together and deliver my message in a way that feels true to me. The reality is, I can't make all of the overwhelm in my life go away, but I sure can prioritize what's most important in my life. I share my own process because I hope that it inspires you to take an inventory on your life so that you can start to get that overwhelm under control. In a perfect world, overwhelm would be easily managed if we could bend time. But as far as I know, that is not an option. So we have to realize that time is fleeting and valuable. So what you do with your time is important and should be prioritized. It's your life and it better be what you want it to be. And yes, this is where you put in some mental and emotional work to find some love in getting those chores done or working on those house projects that always get pushed aside. Learn to love the things that are part of life and that are inevitable. Time is non renewable. You can't go back to a time that's past. Don't spend time beating yourself up about what you didn't do, but figure out, like, okay, I'm here right now. I'm overwhelmed here at this point in my life. What are the things that I can remove or put at a different time so that we can get it all done? As much as I was fighting having a schedule, I do have a schedule when I work with clients, but I don't want to have a schedule on my free time. And I was telling my husband, I'm like, oh no, have I become that person? I have to schedule my weekends, my time, and what time I'm going to go do this or that. And I think that I do. I have to be that version of myself to continue to do all the things that I do. And I probably do too much, but don't we all? Not scheduling time to put together an episode, not scheduling time to record, not scheduling time for anything that's important to me. At the end, it just leaves me unhappy and I'm stressed and I'm kind of miserable because I'm not doing what I actually want to be doing. So, yes, now I've become someone that has to operate with the schedule in order to be productive and also happy because there are things that are so important to me that I was not putting as a priority. And I'm one of those people, like if it's an appointment, if it's on my calendar, I will be there. That is the same type of mindset that I have to apply to my life. And of course, this is not to say that you have to schedule every single thing into your life, but there is so much benefit to take some time to look at your life and decide what's important to me and what isn't. And if it's not important to me and I'm spending a lot of time doing that, what can I do to change it? I feel like there's always this mix of life is so short, but it also feels so long. They're both very valuable in that way because if life is so short, how do I want to spend it if I don't have a lot of time? But then if life feels long, I don't want it to be hard and I don't want it to drag on. So, what do I have to do to manage my overwhelm so it doesn't feel so hard? I do think the path to inner peace is a lot of personal responsibility. And we do have to take a look at those times when we are overwhelmed, when everything is too much. And when we feel that we're not feeling at peace, part of getting to that place is saying, I'm going to take some responsibility to look at my life and see where I have to make these changes. And they don't have to be overnight, they don't have to be perfect. I do think sometimes they are on a learning curve. You have to try. Can I schedule it at this time? How do I do when I do that? Because when you are overwhelmed, it's hard to switch gears and say, okay, I'm going to remove or delegate certain things. It's not a natural behavior because by nature, you've probably just been taking it all on anyway. And so it just takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of planning, a little bit of intention. But I hope that my own personal lesson on what I got to do to get my life under control has been somewhat helpful. Where do you have to align your values with your time and your priorities and with what's important? On a side note, I know that my episodes are supposed to drop every Thursday, but like I said, I am feeling the overwhelm. I am feeling very busy and I have a lot to do. And so these are the adjustments that I need to make in my life to be productive. So the next episode is going to be more about learning to step into your own voice and following your calling or this nudge that you've been feeling. What do you have to do to pay attention to it so that you finally start to move in that direction? Because I know that I was stunted by fear and misaligned advice that kind of steered me off the path for a while. And I can't help but wonder sometimes if I hadn't let someone get in my head or if I hadn't talked myself out of it, how much more progress would I have made? So, if that resonates with you at all, stay tuned for the next episode. I'm hopeful to get back on a schedule. If you've made it to the end of this episode, thank you for listening, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. I hope something here met you right where you are. This podcast is for inspiration only and not a substitute for therapy. Please reach out to a licensed professional if you need support.